Fam, this is going to be a good point right now because I think we're going to get into a little bit of when I see the word imperialist or anti-imperialist, I think foreign policy.
Right.
Foreign policy.
So there's a divide going on, and I don't just see it on Twitter. I see it in real life. I see it with our friends. I see it all over the place. It's not just social media. It is right now. The Democratic Party is succeeding in one thing. It is succeeding in herding back progressives back into the party when progressives should be all already in unison, pushing a third party and working together to do direct actions. But instead, they're making phone calls for Biden. Okay, so it's very clear lines have been drawn in the sand between those of us who are both leftists and anti-imperialists willing to stand up to the security state and the military-industrial complex, and those of us who are fine with bombing the rest of the world as long as we get health care. Because there are a lot of the Demsoc left or the Brooklyn left or whatever the hell you want to call them. They're only left domestically. So, yeah, let's get Medicare for all. Let's get a Green New Deal. But, yeah, I don't care if the squad doesn't speak on Julian Assange. That's irrelevant to me. That who cares about free speech? Oh, that's a right-wing talking point. Or, yeah, foreign policy. Yeah, no, like, it's, it's fine as long as, yeah, okay, we shouldn't invade countries, but they don't know anything that we're talking about. They promote Russiagate. They say that Maduro is a brutal dictator, or they're okay with that. They talk so negatively still about Fidel Castro and all of these things that they're completely uneducated about. They don't know or care what sanctions are, etc. Right? And it's miseducation, it's empire education, but it's also like now it's a lot of people who have the opportunity to see, who have been explained these things, but they try to smear it as the only people talking about this are Tulsi supporters. Entirely false. The only people talking about this are right-wingers, and they don't know what's going on. You're not a leftist. This isn't about left or right. This is about being an anti-imperialist. Either you're an anti-imperialist or you're an imperialist. And the vast majority of our Congress are imperialists. In fact, if not, like, literally all of them. Because...
but they also too fall for that little sad story about what the story is. Like, we had this argument just recently. Somebody kind of went after us, talking about us, and they were like, Ilhan Omar, like, what about her? Like, she's actually a war refugee. You don't appreciate that? That's the American dream. It's like, dude, what about our policies? Why don't you talk about our policies? You want to put it up on the table and say she hasn't said anything about Julian Assange. She denied the Armenian Holocaust of sorts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She was like one of, and that to me was like, okay, you can't step out of your old past and say I can make a difference between this, because who died over there for those Armenians? It was Orthodox Christian Jews. You know what I'm saying? And now you're talking against it. You won't even recognize them. You have this little love affair with Erdogan. And if you don't know anything about foreign policy, you don't know the fact that Erdogan is a piece of crap. This guy is trying to bring back the Ottoman Empire. He's caused problems. American lives have been lost because Erdogan. You know, what happened in Syria and what he did and the strings he pulled. But anyways, I don't want to get into it. It's the fact that they don't understand policy, and they look at the window trimmings, fam. What's up there, what's in front, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Oh, this is her story.
It's a desire,
who cares about her policy?
It's a desire to feel good and feel better. That's like the desire that humans need to, like, it's not a bad thing to want to feel that way, but it becomes dangerous when you ignore the reality and the policy behind it, especially when you call yourself that you're anti-racist only in America, but screw the rest of black and brown people that are either being enslaved or bombed or killed or injured as a result of American foreign policy. So I'm of the belief, is what I said on the second tweet, that's the only other one I'm going to read from there, that there's no separation. Everything is connected. We need basic human rights like healthcare and education for all, a ban on fracking with a Green New Deal type of thing, but better than the Democratic version, plus ending wars and occupations abroad and civil liberty protections. There is nothing wrong with thinking like that. There's nothing wrong with saying the word civil liberties. There's nothing wrong with any of this. And that's where the Democrats have succeeded in maligning certain issues as partisan when they are actually not. If you are actually for progress, you should care about these issues because they are directly connected to everything that you care about. And Comrade Misty Putin also said there are lefties who are fine with imperialism so long as they get health care. Then there's the actual anti-imperialist left. That's the divide, and it's a big one.
I love that tweet right there. I gotta like that tweet. That's one of my favorites because that is the truth. You know what I'm saying? When people, the whole Tulsi thing, it was like, listen, it's not Tulsi, it's the issues. I want to be an anti-imperialist. I want to read
this other one that was underneath. The greatest enemy of humanity is not COVID, but a virus whose very mention is banned in the West, imperialism. This is the virus of the rampant 19th century power by a 21st century forces of guns, war, debt, plunder, poverty, and there is a vaccine, us. And so a lot of people completely dismiss imperialism, as you were saying.
Yeah. Well, they think it was like that. It was the issues, and that's the fact is that they're just ignorant to that. Like I see a lot of my friends. I know a lot of the old school activists and stuff. They understand about Medicare for all, how important it is because it's in their face. They're out there. They're feeding people. They're dealing with homeless people, and I get it. But you can't look at one without the other. It's like what Ben Norton said when he's on the show. It's like they think they don't live in this world. You know what I'm saying? And the atrocities that our government is committing abroad is important to pay attention to. Plus, if we live on this kind of like capitalistic economic scale, where's all the money going? So much of the money and the resources going to what? To bomb and kill indigenous people in their own homeland, and you're not paying attention to it. You know what I'm saying? You have to pay attention to these things. I'm sorry, fam.
And the Julian Assange is another issue that we can point to that is completely ignored by a lot of this divide on I call them the pro-imperialist left because ultimately it is imperialism. And the Assange defense said
that's a new term.
It is dangerous to suggest that Assange's actions are somehow criminal rather than steps routinely taken by investigative journalists who communicate with confidential sources to receive classified information of public importance. It is not difficult to imagine how autocratic governments eager to undermine media scrutiny will use this indictment to punish such journalists. And Julian Assange, I wanted to point that out because Julian Assange is an issue that a lot of people completely have ignored on the left entirely. And the only people that are supporting Tulsi Gabbard's legislation, as we're going to point out in a minute, are Republicans. And this is really dangerous and sad. Catherine Rose Fisher posted, the U.S. military gunned down 2 journalists in cold blood in Iraq. Julian Assange was arrested for exposing this. He was arrested for exposing U.S. war crimes. AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib. Will you stand with him or will you stay silent? And thus far, they have stayed entirely silent.
Diana Presley, she was missed that list, and then they gunned down 2 journalists, but they gunned down 4 other people that were with those 2 journalists. There was 6 people that were killed, and there was another young child that was hit in a car off to the side that a Marine had to pick up and try to save her life. A lot of people don't even talk about that, and that's what Julian Assange was exposing. Those kind of things, these war crimes, and that was just one war crime we see, fam. So imagine with our military budget and with our imperialism, where we're all over the globe, how stuff like that must happen on a regular basis at the hands of American imperialists.
And Christine Olivo for Congress has been talking about Assange. She's running for Congress, and she said ballot harvesting is a real issue that needs to be addressed. And that's another issue that people are saying is a right-wing talking point. She's in Florida District 24, and she is a working-class mom running for Congress and an advocate for UBI, Medicare for All, $15 minimum wage, and more. She's talked about foreign policy, and she's also addressed Julian Assange. She's the one person running for office that I've seen really address all of it right now, especially at a time where a lot of the Assange folks who are really active are trying to, get people to really talk about it, because when public officials or people running for office talk about it, it raises the awareness on the American psyche, and it also allows the discussion to become more common so people do start paying attention.
Good point.
When they don't do that, then it just remains silent, and that's primarily what's happening.
I think people brush it off. They're like, nah. They just don't make it an important issue to them. It's not in front
to
of
them. It's just one guy, and they don't really know or care to know much about it. But it is not just one guy. It's press freedoms. It's the rule of law. It's protections for journalists. It's whistleblowers.
Yeah, if you can kill the messenger at any time, you can stop the messenger from coming forth with information. You can control whatever you want. I mean, the fact that you're just jailing him and nobody's saying nothing. I mean, the mainstream media has just been silent on it. It's disgusting. And he embarrassed them, but
And Ben Norton posted, reminder that political prisoner Julian Assange has also been held in solitary confinement to much of this year and a half. And the United Nations says solitary confinement for more than 15 days is torture. Assange has been tortured for more than a year. This guy has been in solitary confinement for a year and a half. That is insane. what that does to people is it really, a lot of people who are in solitary confinement end up committing suicide after the fact, because you are human beings. You're supposed to be around people naturally. You're not supposed to be alone. Sunlight, people, you're supposed to have that. There's none of that happens in solitary confinement, and they're treating him worse than they would treat a serial killer. I mean, it's disgusting what's happening, and nearly nobody in the political spectrum except like 3 people are talking about it.
Yep.
So,
well, let me ask you a question when it comes to this, fam. Like, what's going to happen now? I mean, you have a candidate who does talk about these things, who says free Assange. We need to free, pardon Edward Snowden. We have to stop with these regime change wars. We have to get these fair elections. We need to watch out for our civil liberties. She's bastardized, demonized, and thrown out of the party. Is it going to ever happen in the Democratic Party again when they've set these boundaries that, hey, if you talk about these certain issues, if you talk about the secret empire, we're going to ostracize you and throw you out? So what's to happen on the left, especially when it comes to the establishment? You know what I'm saying? If they're never going to let the doors open again, are we going to ever have that person fighting for those freedoms on the left again? Where do they go?
I think it's all a ploy to get to not let it happen at all. I don't think the right is going to come in defense of civil liberties, in the sense that I think some people are taking advantage of this moment, because all this is doing is pushing people towards the right. It's pushing people who are like, the Democrats don't care about any of these things, so I'm going to go and work with the Republicans. And that is dangerous, because a lot of the it's all fascist. It's all of that. We need to combat it, no matter what party you lay on that, no matter what party you stand on. And it's not going to come from the Democratic Party, and I don't think it's going to come from the Republican Party. Now, Tulsi's getting some support from Republicans, but I think it's a lot of libertarian-minded type of Republicans.
It is.
I don't think the vast majority of the Republican wing is going to support that either. So I think it's going to come from the independent-minded folks, the outside forces, and the real left, not the imperialist left. It's not going to come from the TYT folks. It's going to come from us and from the people that are looking at foreign policy and all of these things. That's the push has to come from the alternative media, fighting a very big battle against the Goliath that is the mainstream media propaganda. That's where it's going to come from. It's not going to come, I think, from the government, because they stand to lose when we have protections on our civil liberties. They stand to lose so much, because if we get protections for whistleblowers, for journalists, they don't get to lie anymore. They don't. It's such a big deal. They don't get to put
their propaganda up unchecked and stuff like that. But let me ask you a question, fam.
Yeah.
The progressive left, the future left, isn't that more like that kind of TYT, progressive kind of Medicare for all, Green New Deal kind of mentality? Aren't they that make up the majority of the party? And how is that going to change if it's not going to let the door open for like the leftist?
I'm saying it's not going to come from the Democratic Party.
So you think it's outside that party then?
Oh yeah, that the Democratic Party will never let that happen. Neither will the Republican Party. Her bill, it's not getting the support it should be getting, and that tells you everything. That tells you that they're
the ballot harvesting bill
by this, not just the ballot harvesting bill. The Assange bill, the Assange bill, the whistleblower bill, and the Edward Snowden bill.
No help.
None of them are getting any help or any support, even minimal support. They're not getting any of that, because I think it's a bipartisan support against Americans' freedoms. It's against civil liberties, because they stand to lose the moment we regain any of that. We are more under their control. They can continue lying and telling people stories about Russiagate. They can continue pretending that Joe Biden isn't the worst candidate in the world. They can continue promoting Donald Trump by talking crap about him, yet giving him all this airtime. They can continue vilifying the socialist things as completely unsuccessful. Bernie Sanders lost twice. Of course, nobody's ready for that. Nobody wants socialism in America. They can continue lying about all these things if they keep a hold on our civil liberties. And that's what a lot of the neo-progressive left doesn't realize, that this is actually directly targeting you. It's targeting you.
Well, we bring it up the fact that now they're shutting down some of these Facebook pages, whatnot. Like we told you, like, hey man, you have to speak up. It's not good they shut down Alex Jones. Oh no, he's awful. He needs to go.
Same thing with QAnon.
Oh my God, you know what I'm saying? Oh, they need to go. And then all of a sudden, once they went for them, you said nothing. Now they're gonna come for you, and nobody's gonna say anything. But I do find it kind of disheartening to see the fact that, like, with all these bills out there, with the election integrity issues and stuff, especially from the Bernie Sanders progressives who got cheated twice, really badly in 2016 when WikiLeaks gave us the proof and stuff like that, that you guys are still concentrating on the fact that well, I don't want to say it's a fact, but the idea that what Tulsi Gabbard did to Ilhan Omar was, kind of like against Muslims of sorts. It was what's the word?
Well, because they had that anti-Muslim, because they had that idea before this happened. So the same people that were always attacking her and saying she's anti-Muslim were the same people that were saying, oh, look, she's anti-Muslim here. Yeah. Nothing has changed. I mean, the people that, and this isn't about Tulsi Gabbard. You don't have to like Tulsi Gabbard, and this is what irks me. You don't have to agree with her on everything to understand how important her bills are. And to understand the importance of what she has introduced. You don't have to be her supporter. And I've seen some people say this, like, hey, I don't even like Tulsi Gabbard, but what she supported is good. Yeah. Like, oh, okay, yeah, you can say that even if you don't. But the people that can't do that, it's because they're disingenuous. They have this vile hatred of this woman because she doesn't fit in a box, and they can't put her in a box, so they don't know what to do with her. Yeah. So they're like, well, she hasn't done, she didn't do this and blah, blah, blah. I mean, Elizabeth Warren isn't even vilified like Tulsi Gabbard was, and Elizabeth Warren is a huge reason why Bernie Sanders lost. Like he would have at least lasted longer had she not been in there. He might have even won if he could have unified with Bernie Sanders. Yeah. Like, no, that you guys were cheering for Elizabeth Warren, every single one of you who hates Tulsi Gabbard, and Elizabeth Warren is a corporate Democrat, as corporate as it gets. Yeah. And so there's just this really fascination and obsession with Tulsi Gabbard that clouds any sort of like ability to be like, okay, let's just look at policy. And it's not just with her, it's like looking at the rose-colored glasses of even what Bernie's doing now, excusing what he's doing now as something necessary, or it's, oh, he had a contract with the DNC. Bullshit. He doesn't have to do what he's fucking doing right now, and you guys are pretending that it's okay just because it's Bernie, and it's not. Yeah, and yesterday when I posted something about Bernie, and we're gonna get into that, asking money, people fucking went off on me, and it's like, well, if you can't hold people accountable, then what the hell are you doing, man? Yeah, it
sucks because it seems like the establishment knows how to trigger people and move people, and they throw it out there, people. And then you buy it. You get manipulated by the establishment with the Islamophobia thing, which not saying that's not an issue and stuff like, but in this particular case, it's not. Our elections were the situation. The most important thing we deal with when it comes to ballot harvesting is making sure we have integrity for our elections, and we should be concentrating on that, especially when they screwed your guy in 2016, and now you're actually doing their work for them. It didn't take you long to do so. And talking about elections, we have Raji Rob over here. Alarming news in the LA Times and the Daily News shows a major disaster. Election integrity and fraud is a big public issue. Monopoly of one of the company for printing and storage of ballots must end. We talk about this all the time. K&H, right, Johnny? What's going on? It's like, listen, we need a deep dive. Taxpayers, $300 million spent on unreliable vote count machines must be refunded. The American people must be trusted, hired, and handsomely paid for a publicly telecast. What's that? Thank you. Manual vote count with mask and social distancing in our elections. Let's help fund our people and defeat fraud. Listen, we need to have a serious conversation about when it's to be done. You know what I'm saying? Our elections are crazy. It's crap. You talk about systemic issues within our elections.
And they've been crap.
They've been crap for a long time. The tabulation machines are flawed. Proprietary software, so the way they count them, they can do anything. Our elections itself, fam, 7-hour lines, 6-hour lines, flawed. And the absentee ballot thing, where everybody's just repeating what the Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats say. There's been no issue with voter fraud. It's not voter fraud. It's election fraud. It's election rigging. They with the absentee ballots and with our mail-in votings, whoever has the contract, a friendly contract, can stuff the ballot box. Yep. You know what I'm saying? There's no security in these elections. So we need to fix everything. So when you talk about ballot harvesting, it gets the wheels turning. Yep. You know what I'm saying? And you start getting to a place where you need to get. Go ahead.
And Grumpy Bertie Sanders said the only people to co-sponsor Tulsi Gabbard's resolution to drop all charges against Julian Assange and Edward Snowden are Thomas Massie and Matt Gaetz, respectively. Both are Republicans. What the hell is going on? Is the GOP becoming more anti-imperialist than Democrats? And add to the fact that Donald Trump is the first president in decades who hasn't started any new wars since taking office so far. Now, I'm not going to give credit to. I'm not going to pretend that the Republicans are somehow anti-imperialist, because they're not. I'm not going to fall for that. I think this is all part to really not have any action on it and to really get people back into the right, because the Democratic Party's priority isn't to win. They'd rather lose and at least keep the status quo, even if it moves towards the right, because they stand to lose if a progressive gets elected. That's why they put all their effort to defeat Bernie Sanders and any sort of progressive that could have gotten in. Why do you think they smeared Tulsi Gabbard so much? Because they don't want these ideas and people to wake up to become reality. If they succeed in that, it's fine if they lose. But at least the status quo is kept intact. At least they're still making money. At least all of this fundraising can happen. But if a progressive wins, forget it. It's game over for them. So that's how they keep this going. And so the reality is, I don't really think of this as I think it's a partisan attack on our civil liberties, because even just 2 Republicans are, it's just not enough. It's just not enough. And again, it's people like Thomas Massey who are more libertarian-minded Republicans. It's not the Tea Party Republicans.
Not
either.
at all. Not at all. Well, I mean, some of them, like Gates, I think can be considered a Tea Party
probably.
Republican
He's
of
like
sorts,
the one.
Libertarian-minded people. But you are right, fam. The majority of the neocons and the Republicans in the Congress are very neoconservative. The Liz Cheneys, and she got all the Democrats in line in the House. They marched with her and stood with her when it came to stopping Rand Paul's votes to get rid of to end the Afghani war. So there is force. It's like these independent-minded thinking people within the right now. We have one on the left, but she's almost out. In Tulsi Gabbard. By the way, Reeve Barker, I'm just going to read it real quick, says Whitney Webb says the U.S., UK, meaning their governments, have their next journalist lined up for the Assange treatment. Did not specify. Fam, I hope we're not on that list.
I don't think so.
I think we'll be okay.
Okay, and foreign policy-wise, I just wanted to point out something. That American exceptionalism is thinking that a vote for Biden helps immigrants and people of color, when the warmonger who was strongly for the Iraq war, which killed over 2 million Iraqis, will continue droning on wars abroad. But you're not on the receiving end of the bomb, so it's not important to you. And that's just all I wanted to read from that, because that is American exceptionalism. You don't care about people of color abroad. You only say that you care about them, and that's why you're voting for Joe Biden domestically. But other than that, like, you don't give a shit about them. And let me read this one from Nicole Alexander Fisher. Iran is going through its 3rd wave of coronavirus. They have hit a record number of deaths and infections in the past 48 hours. And only 2 days ago, the United States decided to impose the harshest sanctions on Iran, causing severe shortages in medicine and supplies. Vile. So while we are talking about, defending poor people, defending minorities and stuff, and the Democratic Party is doing none of that either, the Republican Party is doing none of that either, they're both okay with sanctioning Iranians in the middle of a coronavirus and their 3rd wave of coronavirus, and yet we pretend that voting for Joe Biden is going to fix this.
He's not. And the fact that people on the left are ignoring this, whatnot, and then we talk about this foreign policy issues and stuff. Sanctions kill poor people.
Yep.
The poorest of poor. If you could think about all those people that you're helping out in the street over there right now that are homeless, that can't eat, and all those things you do out there, well, that's who sanctions affect the most. So when they slap sanctions on a country, those same people that you're taking, care of here at home are the same people who are being, just destroyed abroad and being sent to to starve without medication, the proper medication. It's disgusting, and we need to pick up on that stuff, and the left needs to speak up. Go ahead, fam.
And this anarcho Bitchalist said, I don't like Tulsi, but she's right on whistleblowers and the only one in Congress with the ovaries to put forward legislation on press freedom that would literally affect just how authoritarian our government can get. Squad, hello, squad. I mean, she does have the ovaries. And I wanted to talk about the Lincoln Project, fam, because the Lincoln Project, I kind of mentioned it with Ron on Friday. They're trying to pretend they're progressive, and progressives sometimes fall for it. Ilhan Omar retweeted them, and I didn't really see the outrage of retweeting
Project Veritas, but then you can go to the Lincoln Project. But hey, listen, one of the head of the Lincoln Projects was on TYT the other day too, as well.
Exactly, that's what we talked about on the thing. He said the real resistance is Syria, Iraq, Iran, Lebanon, Palestine, Russia, China, and Venezuela. Not a bunch of war criminal neocons called the Lincoln Project, and this is of course Richie. And he said, I would also add anyone who is engaged in the struggle against imperialism and neocolonialism colonialism, for there are so many groups and nations still fighting for their freedom from the same powers. And the United States, of course, is this power that has continuously infringed upon everybody else.
Good tweet, Dick.
Good tweet, Dick. Peter Dow actually posted this, and this is a nice reminder of normalizing extremists. He said, if you ever wondered how right-wing extremism was normalized, look no further than the so-called liberal media.
Wow.
Here's the New York Times positioning hashtag Amy Coney Barrett as the new conservative rooted in faith instead of hashtag Handmaid's Tale radical. So this is the New York Times positioning her, who now they're all like against her now because it's, Trump. They're saying rooted in faith, Amy Coney Barrett represents a new conservatism. And they paint her as in a positive light. But of course, when it's politically convenient, they're gonna, shift, even though they're really not shifting. We all know this. And then there's a quasi-imperialist left, fam. The quasi-imperialist left who, This is what I had a problem with, and a lot of people had a problem with my post.
Let's talk about this, because this is the finances. A lot of people talked about this with the way Bernie exited, and some of you people even pointed out the Tulsi people pointed out the way she kind of refunded the checks. But where was the money going for Bernie down the road? You know what I'm saying? Why was he doing it? So
I don't know. Multiple people have said that they didn't receive their money back when they asked for it. So I don't know. Some people said they did. Bernie Sanders is raising money from his working class supporters and risking his life to campaign for a rich warmonger. Is the last bit of fact proving that the Democratic Party cannot be reformed and must be destroyed. So this is a message I got from Bernie, and Johnny got it, and a bunch of people got it. Important message from Team Bernie. Bernie is asking for a huge number of donations in the next 30 minutes to help him travel the country and campaign to beat Trump and elect a progressive Congress. Time is running out. We're tracking donations at this link. Okay, he doesn't outright say for Joe Biden, but we have seen him in Joe Biden campaign events. And also he says to beat Trump. Obviously, if you're in the Democratic Party, you're pushing Biden. And to elect progressives. A lot of my friends who are involved in organizations have said that the progressives that Bernie's endorsing aren't progressives at all. They're just Democrats up and down, versus Republicans and stuff like that. That's all it is. And so why is it acceptable that even if you respect Bernie, even if you give him credit for waking you up, etc., just like I do, why is this acceptable? Why is it not okay to say, hey, this is a really bad idea? Why are we asking working class people to give Bernie money to go campaign for Joe Biden? Why doesn't Joe Biden ask his billionaire friends for money? Why aren't they paying for Bernie Sanders to do this out of their pocket? Why is Bernie Sanders having to raise money from his fucking poor supporters to go and campaign for this fucking warmonger?
And all the dark money that Joe Biden has raised has been almost twice as much as Donald Trump and stuff, and all these big
billionaires. Not just Bernie, fam.
Yeah, it's terrible. Fam, what is your thought about this too right now? Because I saw somebody kind of arguing. I was looking at one of your tweets and I was reading the thread, and this whole thing about what you say to elect a progressive Congress.
Yeah.
I really want to make a point about this right now, because I saw a forum, we were talking about it, had some great progressive names on there, but then it just had some Democrats on there, left one particular progressive out. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to talk about it too deeply right now until we get more information on it. But it had all these other people like Maxine Waters on it, Judy Chu, Ted Lieu, Cineros. And I was like, well, why are these people on there and whatnot? Well, they're just running against Republicans. I see, so to me, that's not progressive.
No. To
me, that's not progressive when you say, I'm just going to pick an establishment Democrat because he's running against a Republican.
Yeah.
It should be a no choice. Like, hey, if you're going to be an establishment Democrat, I don't have to necessarily go vote for the Republican, but I'm not voting for you. If you're not giving the progressives anything, I'm not voting for you. Yeah. There are no real true progressives that he's out there supporting that we know of that are going to get on the ballot and make a serious change, fam. No. I mean, we talked about this last time in 2016 with some of the people he supported. It was really, really it's disheartening. And they're still doing it again.
It's worse now.
And the whole thing about it is the person that they left off, it was because of comments or an alignment with somebody else. And I said, do you understand that Maxine Waters' policies and her Russiagating is way worse than what this woman's rhetoric is that you're leaving off the ballot?
Yeah,
just because she's standing there. When it comes to, we have to look at policies above everything else.
No, they look at insults now because the California Democratic Party is trying to outlaw insults.
Yeah.
So that just tells you how they are. And Craig Pasta Jardula said about Cenk Uygur.
You're such a once. Should I read his? Well, Cenk Uygur put 62% of Americans say they don't trust what the real Donald Trump has to say about the coronavirus, but only 53% say they are voting for Joe Biden. So that means that there are 9% of voters who know Trump can't be trusted on life or death issues, but are still considering voting for him. Fam, when I started seeing the numbers, I was like, this douchebag. Like, I don't even want to pay attention. He's like kind of like cherry picking numbers and stuff.
Right.
Like, who cares? What are you talking about here, Cenk? And I put, you're such a one-sided, hypocritical douchebag. Hypocritical douchebag. It's beyond obvious at this point that Katzenberg's check has you in check. Thanks for providing the opportunity for real indie media to shine with your intense bootlicking. The establishment has you on a tight leash. I want to put like leash, but somebody says, well, he's on a leash too as well. That check only lasts for so long, Pasta. So through your error, you were kind of right, but they do have him on a tight leash. And, you know, this is the thing. There's no amount of fugazi number juggling you can do that's going to make Joe Biden look any better than Donald Trump.
Well, and not to mention the fact that it's freaking arrogant to think that these people deserve their vote. Yeah. Like that you have their vote no matter what. Like you don't. So Naomi Klein is an environmentalist that I've always admired, but she's of course taken the whole we got to get Trump out of office. And she said Kamala Harris said Joe Biden will not ban fracking. That is a fact. And she said, actually, we are going to make him do it. Yeah. To borrow a phrase from FDR, just like movements made Obama Biden stop the the Keystone Pipeline and the DAPL pipeline. It's too bad we have to waste energy on it when we should be focused on a Green New Deal, but we'll make them do both because there is no choice. You can't make him do anything when he doesn't work for you. He literally, it's beyond naive. He works for corporations. I don't know how many times we have to tell you this. Why do you guys think that you can push Biden left once he's in office when historically politicians move to the right once they're in office? If you're going to push them on anything, it would be now. But they're not giving you shit now. So why the fuck do you think you can push them once they're in office? Yeah. Once he's in office, he's going to be like, okay, we got it. We got the power. Bye. Yeah. And they're not going to do shit for you. And you're just going to sit back and take it because the Democratic Party and the neo-progressive left have no spine at all whatsoever. Yeah.
It's funny, too, because they get you to do... listen, as a Bernie Sanders progressive, a lot of the people I know that your two main issues were what? Green New Deal, Medicare for all, right? Medicare for all above everything. He said he's going to veto it in the middle of a pandemic. And right now, they go out of their way to point out time and time again, we're not banning fracking. We're not banning fracking. We're not banning fracking. You guys were just saying we're going to push Joe Biden. Before even the election, he's moving further to the right. So...
And I just posted this about Ilhan Omar because she is posting about, putting down symbols honoring perpetrators and oppressors in Minnesota and bringing awareness to those who have been silenced. But it's really interesting. She's talking about survivors of sexual violence, but she's completely ignoring Julian Assange. And I just wanted to point that out again because a lot of people have been asking her, are you going to speak about Epstein? Are you going to talk about Julian Assange? Are you going to talk about the resolutions? I mean, these are in her comments. She's seen them. She's seen them. So has AOC.
Well, she responds back to them.
They're not gonna do it. Yeah. It's all about symbolic platitudes. Again, why is this squad who was there to oppose the Democratic Party becoming that establishment instead of opposing them? I don't know, but it's unacceptable, and people should be having to hold them accountable because I don't have to wait 5-10 years to call them out for it when they run for president, etc. And then it's too late by then. Because then we're going to have the next freaking Barack Obama. Yeah. The next freaking imperialist.
How do you say that last tweet and then go vote for Joe Biden? I don't get... You're talking about, you know what I'm saying?
Sexual assault. That's another thing. Yeah. Sexual assault. Let's pretend that Joe Biden doesn't have multiple accusations of sexual assault.
Yeah, well, he's just got picture after picture of him, touching little girls, feeling up little girls and stuff. I saw that. Did you see the Halloween outfit you can get? Where, it's Joe Biden on your back and, it's like he's over there touching you like this.
That's disgusting.
There's a new Halloween outfit out there. I was laughing my ass about it. Fam, let's talk about one of my favorite journalists, one of my favorite guys, Mehdi Hassan. Love this guy.
I thought you were
Mehdi for president.
So Max Blumenthal said from serious what is it? No, it said TED-a-ta, I don't know, TED-a-ta, I think, with world leaders on an international news network to puff pieces with #resistance Insta celebs on MSDNC. Mehdi has come a long way. Great to see years of calculated left punching finally pay off. Yeah, and that's all it was. He would go, he would take his time, and he has been talking. Look what he's talking about. And he's talking about TikTok and pop songs and dance videos. And in the final year of Trump, let me do that. Let me do it to this crazy president. And they're talking about TikTok and Donald Trump in an effort to make fun of Trump. That's where Mehdi Hassan has gone to. From actually being a decent journalist and writing about things that are of importance, like Max Blumenthal said, he's come a long way into being this corporate hack, and it's really sad. I don't even want to play the video, but it's just really.
Can we play it?
No.
It's not worth it?
No.
All right.
We're kind of short on time.
Let's talk about AOC and Warren, because that's
okay,
the dream
so
team
I
right
just
over there,
wanted
fam.
to put this out with Elizabeth Warren and AOC working together. She'll work with Elizabeth Warren, but she won't work with, like, Tulsi Gabbard. Here's the New Yorker. At the New York Fest, AOC and Warren discussed the need to address climate change, how young people's politics are being shaped by the tumult of 2020, and what happens if President Trump refuses to accept the election results. So fear-mongering yet again.
Okay, yeah. Can we say this? Listen, it was the Democrats who refused to accept the results. That's what Obamagate was. They had a soft coup that went after a duly elected president. They went after, but it's a right-wing talking point. No, we only have the declassified information. We have Brennan's notes. We have testimony, and Biden knew too as well. We see what they did to George Flynn. Whether you like George Flynn or not, you don't do those things. You don't use the intelligence department and the FBI to go after your political rivals. What they did was treason, and it's disgusting. So when you keep on saying this whole rhetoric, like, he won't accept the results, wait, what about the Democrats? They didn't want to accept the results. And how do you say climate change and then say go vote for Joe Biden? He's screaming. He's screaming we will not ban fracking. He took fracking money to begin with. He did shit at Standing Rock when those people were getting their heads bunched in. He didn't say a goddamn word. Now all of a sudden, I mean, the guy is going out of his way to saying, I'm not going to ban fracking. I'm not going to ban fracking. Okay, so if there's a choice between a Republican and a Republican, people are going to pick the real Republican. End of story.
Yep, I 100% fam.
It's and AOC is just sucks. They just sucks.
They're just fear mongering right now, and working with somebody like Elizabeth Warren is just like, fine, work with her. But if you're gonna work with her, work with everybody equally, pushing actual bills that are out there.
Work on the issues.
She's not working on any bills. They're just telling you, oh, we need this, we need that. We know. What are you guys doing about it? Oh, we're not doing anything. Okay.
Go vote for Joe Biden. He's my friend.